how much velocity we have over here because of the kind of platforms we've built. Like we had a CTO that wasn't writing code and that didn't work out for us. Everyone is so uber competitive and just super focused, and hundreds of thousands of people depend on their cell phone service on us. So we can't be cavalier about it. We can't make the same mistakes.
We're here in US Mobile's annual Offsite, Tokyo 2025. I think it's the biggest one yet, but it's not just a vacation. It's not just a cultural experience. It's also an epic hackathon. How do we arrive at that decision this year?
We've always been more practical, like less talking, more work. We hired someone like Joe, who is the most experienced probably person in the company at this point, and he's not telling people what to do. He comes and he's probably written more code than a lot of other engineers.
Yeah.
So I think hires like that have like kind of spurred this more. So this is obviously like this is probably like the culmination of that. So Andrew was like, we're not going to do any presentations. We're going to spend the first day talking about presentations, but we're going to go and actually write code.
What do you hope comes out of this? Will these features all be deployed immediately? Is everyone going to be considered?
Not his.
Mine's in production.
His is a scam, but production on an app that like doesn't exist. It's an old version of the app.
We'll see. There's some competition here because we got 10 teams and we have a prize for the winner. But it is more than just that. It's that we got everyone together from different departments working together, having this competitive spirit and also a deadline. So you got to put in the work. You have to actually produce something if you have any chance of winning. So that means you need to think creatively. You need to have a end goal in mind that's reasonable, because you don't want to go into a hackathon and then come out with a PowerPoint slide or an idea that's going to be built over the next couple of months.
If you
want to have something tangible and show it.
If you want to be laughed at for the rest of the year, like if you want to be at the butt of all the jokes for the next year, every time the whole US Mobile organization meets, like the best way to do it is to come up with a PowerPoint presentation that actually doesn't have any code behind it.
So you're expecting that these are finished features by the end of this 48-hour?
Well, I don't know. I hope some of them haven't finished it so I can we can make fun of them for the rest of the year.
And then maybe you can get the cash money prize.
That would be great if I could make fun of people. But I think everyone has built stuff that's either sitting in production or in our test environment, so like real features.
Yeah, we started off with 68 ideas submitted, a lot of duplicates, and shortlisted down to top 18. What was the process like of doing that? How did you guys come to arrive at what the top priorities are?
The thing with stuff like this is it's easy to come up with a large list of ideas, and we're in the weeds. A lot of those ideas are good ideas, and it could have been a different 10 of the 18, and they would have been good. And really the culling was just figuring out a few things that maybe weren't realistic in 2 days, because we want people to be able to actually, get to that finish line or get to something that they could actually do and
I
be
definitely
proud of.
feel like a big takeaway from this is a bunch of people have realized how much velocity we have over here without having to work 80, 90, 100 hours a week because of the kind of platforms we've built. And I think this is going to be a really major takeaway from this. I feel like this is going to accelerate a lot of our feature development, because we're going to keep on coming back to this. If someone comes with us and says, hey, there's a 2-week timeline in this, and we'll be like, wait, but we did this. And it was in 2 days.
We've done the hackathon. Yeah. Can you be more specific with me about what platforms you're talking about? You're saying it's easier to build upon them, and that's why we can execute.
Generally, the way US Mobile is written is code, like building blocks. That's US Mobile's. That's what makes US Mobile worth what it is today. Is early investments in technologies like Kubernetes and Docker and MongoDB and how we create our builds and the way we have written our tech stack. So, for example, I'm going to kind of market my project over here, but
we have to get this out before the voting happens so people can watch this. There might be some bias in the vote.
We'll today give you the ability to change features through our chatbot, add roaming, remove roaming, add features, buy a new plan, and it's all like production ready code on our AI chatbot. And then obviously we're going to feed the model lots of information over the next 6-7 months so that it's all autonomous. But for that, how do you hit our endpoints through the chat? How do you validate someone? How do you come to our chat where we figure out who you are? Because we obviously don't want you to be like buying add-ons on a random phone line at US Mobile, validating that, and then creating something that's secure so that like, even if that endpoint is like public somewhere, no one else can hit it. That kind of stuff takes like months, if not like a year to build. And Avinash did it in a couple of hours because that's how we built our endpoints. So I think that's like pretty incredible from that perspective. Yeah.
Cool. Michael, what's your team's project that you're leading?
So we are bringing push notifications to people's phones. All the projects are going to benefit from what we've done. We're in a position where somebody is working on bringing more visibility to how our referral program works, or somebody is creating a chatbot which allows you to request a feature change. Some of those feature changes or things that they might be doing might take 10 seconds or 1 minute, and you don't want to be sitting there looking at your phone waiting for it to happen. You want to be able to put your phone down and move on with your life. So you need push notifications to tell you
Jokes
that
aside,
something is
he's
completed.
Right. He's right. And so like for everyone watching, you're like, wait, like what's so special about push notifications? Going and charging your card for $5 at a coffee shop that's easy. This is not easy. Every phone line at US Mobile has between 10 to 40 features, from your roaming tiers to your voicemail to what kind of voicemail do you have, internet speeds, do you have 4G, do you have 5, like bunch of stuff. And I think they'd be able to, they build, I think, we see, where you can basically notify people on all of those features. That's huge.
So it's not just pushing people like, hey, open your app and buy something. It's also like security measures. It's also updates on your transfer.
Yeah, like do you want to enhance your voicemail? Do you want to teleport? Do you want to add your hotspot? Do you want to remove your hotspot? Do you want to, hey, I've put in that my kid should not have like data service from like 9 p.m. to like 6 a.m. Getting a notification for that, because that's basically removing a data sock from their line. It's a lot.
Yeah. And what I'm gathering also, yeah?
I was going to say, we're also exploring dynamic notifications where you can actually hold down on your notification and get a menu from there to make certain decisions without even necessarily going to that. If you get a usage notification saying you're running out, you should be able to top up right there without even having to go in.
True. Yeah, and we got many, many more features as well. These all seem like the small little quality of life enhancements that just took this couple days to knock out. But what I notice is like, we all traveled here. We're all excited to kind of see this brand new city. But when we're inside of this room, people like are seriously motivated. I mean, just look around the room. The Wheel of Fortune to pick teams was like, people were on their feet. Like,
Captivating, right?
Yeah. But what can you say about that? How you've built this company culture, like over time, where people are like, I'm motivated to actually work even harder, cram even more stuff into a tight timeline. Where does that
I'm not going to
motivation
take credit for it. It's people have built it. Over the years, I think we've done a very good job hiring people. I'm not going to like be like down to earth about that. The reality is that this is pretty incredible, the people that we have. So I think that's what it is. We have hired certain kind of people. So we look at Like we overemphasize on like whether you're a good, easy to get along with person. And that you can see where you make people comfortable in an interview, they'll tell you stuff that they're not supposed to. I mean, they'll give you signs of like what could happen, like what their outlook is towards other human beings, right? Are you the kind of person who's gonna be walking out of the office and hold the door for someone or not, right? And stuff like that. So I think there's just so much pattern matching, and we've become good at that. And then just and what we have done is just given people lots and lots of ownership and room, and it helps that the company has grown this much, and technologically we've built something that, and what we're doing with AI in the next year or so, that no one else has ever done it. So you got a bunch of like 20 and 30-year-olds who are changing telco in this country, and they will. There's like, I have no doubt over that. And I think what's happened now is what you saw yesterday was now they believe it. Everyone is so uber competitive and just super focused and
Right.
but like laid back at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also picking up on the, like you mentioned before, and I think lately you've been talking about bringing in more senior and experienced people to kind of counterbalance these fresh out of college, like earlier in their career folks who are in our company. What can you say about that? How you hope to shape the company over the next year, what we can deliver when we do that?
We have just a really strong foundation of people that we hired out of college or kind of early in their careers, and now they've bunch of people have spent long time at US Mobile. I was actually talking to Aaron, looking at like what the attrition at US Mobile looks like, and it's actually, we basically keep most of our people. But over the last 12 months, we have only had 2 departures of people who have been at US Mobile for more than 2 years. A person who was there for 4.5 years, which is dog years in the realm of startups, and then another person 2.5 years. So we've been able to keep all of these people that we hired, and now we're kind of cherry picking some senior people who've been around for like 15, 20 years, who've seen stuff that these folks might not have. And they're ready to listen to these senior people as well. The where things break, where we have made mistakes over the past, is hiring people who were not, I would say, kind of on the ground kind of folks. Like we had a CTO that wasn't writing code, and that didn't work out for us. We hired 2 marketing people who were not ready to go and send emails out or do customer communication. And then they have to deal with someone like Mush, who is one of the best marketers out there, right?
Yeah, he can back anything he talks. Yeah.
So then it's like, Mush is not going to report to that person.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not easy, but the key is that we are bringing people who are doers. And the difference for some of these people that we're bringing in is they do have more experience. They have seen some things. They are going to listen also to our team, who's been here for, even if they're younger, but they've been through the trenches. They've been the ones who've built something in 2 or 3 years and maintained it and dealt with the challenges and stresses. And now we're open to, okay, how is this going to work? You know, when it's 10 times bigger, when it's 100 times bigger. And that's a big theme for us this year is, are we ready to be 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times bigger and more stressed in all these different ways? And so bringing in these people who've seen that kind of stuff is critical for us. So we're not trying to figure it out.
Like we just hired Ahab, who's come in as a lead PM. Ahab has been around for 12, 13 years now in his professional career. And our product team is great, right? Like we've got the youngest product manager on the team working on my AI team. And so like you've got someone like Zainab, who's just out of college. You've got someone like Ahab, who is after Andrew, the senior most, like in terms of experience, like him and like Asad at US Mobile. So, and he's only been here for a week. Like, I mean, this is his like second week in the company in Tokyo. And so we're doing this hackathon where like we wanted ideas. And as you all know that our chief product officer, Andrew, was running it. But then as we're getting on the plane, I can see that someone like in a hub who's only been here for a week says, hey guys, please make sure you put your ideas in. He's senior. He knows how valuable these things are because he's seen them before. So he's valuing it more than maybe some of the other folks who did not put that message in. And that's perfectly fine. That's why. So do you see like how like even though we have brought someone in and you obviously interviewed him yesterday, he just hit the ground running.
Right. And then he kind of sets the tone and kind of even reminds people who've been around for a longer time, like this is what the pace and what the tone is. Mike, I want to circle back to what you said about the growth going from where we're at now to 10x or 100x. Do you feel that we're ready? Or what do you think are the next building blocks to ensure that success?
It starts with the people. Like it starts with bringing in people who can work with the people we've had, give them the wisdom, give them a path to look towards, and make sure that we avoid missteps that can be avoided. Because that's what startups generally do is they're running as fast as they can and they trip and then they get up and they start running in a slightly different direction and they trip and all that. But when you get bigger, you don't want to trip as often. You still want to be running, but you don't want to have these trips because it matters to your customers. Like, we don't want to have something not work and then somebody lose service at the worst time. When you're a startup in the early days, you might not take that, as personally and not be as concerned that, one of these evangelist early adopters, had that experience. But now when you've got thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people who are depending on you, you have to be more careful. You have to be in a position where you can handle those types of volumes. And so that's what we have to work towards. And we're there. Like we are not aspiring to be big. We are big. And so there is no answer to your question that's, we're not ready or we're, it's coming down the road. It's here now.
It's here now. Is US Mobile still a startup?
I think I definitely have kind of started correcting myself and I don't like calling it that, and it's not. Can't be a startup if you're 100 million in revenue, and startup actually means that you're allowed to make mistakes that more mature companies are not. So we're definitely not that, and that's been the theme of this offsite as well,
right?
That we're not that.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, we're not. We can't make the same mistakes. Hundreds of thousands of people depend on their cell phone service on us, so we can't be cavalier about it. So that answer is no. But we're pretty much a startup in the way we operate, and that hasn't changed at all. It's amazing how we're able to reset it every year. Like this is going to be a big reset for us, where like I think people are going to go even faster. So not startup operationally, not a startup from how we think about what reliability means, but pretty much a startup when it comes to building stuff and failing. Yeah.
Are you okay with failures along the way?
I mean, you have to be. It's going to be a few more as well. Failures mean something different when you're generating the amount of cash we are generating. Right? I mean, if we spend 400 grand, I mean, my fault, totally, by the way. It's like, we spent 400 grand on a TV ad that I'm not sure whether it's going to work out or not. Right? So that's like a failure if it doesn't work. The jury's still out on it. $400,000 is all we had 5 years back. Actually, $200,000. We lived on $200,000 bank balance for 2 years. This would have destroyed us there. And a bunch of companies do this. A bunch of startups still do this. $2 million in the bank account, let's go and swing for the fences, as opposed to becoming defensive and kind of sticking around. So, from that perspective.
Michael, what did you see before joining US Mobile that you find is different here? Because your background was in finance, right?
I had spent time in finance, technology. I had worked at a kind of like a startup turnaround situation before, and one of the things I said to Ahmed when I first met him was, I have a checklist for what I'm looking for and what I'm definitely not looking for. And one of the biggest things on that checklist was that everyone who's doing the work has to be in the same place. So this was long before COVID times and remote work, but I had worked remotely. I had outsourced design, outsourced engineering, and in business school you hear those kinds of you hear those types of concepts, and they're often framed as a good thing. You pay for what you need, you turn it off when you don't. If you need more, you pay more. But you don't get the type of experience that we had in the beginning with US Mobile, that we have in this room right now, where everyone is working together. And when they run into a challenge, they're discussing the solution, and then they're moving in that direction. And that was like an absolute must for me.
I'd add to what Michael said right now. It's and it was like, it culminated with hiring Joe, and I'm going to keep on hiring more senior people as well. But I got to a point this year where I feel very comfortable about the fact that that our platform is not going to go down. It's a huge milestone for this year, which is, it's just based on the data that we have and what we've seen, is we have a complete set of firefighters at US Mobile at this point, or first responders.
Say, when you have these firefighters, what does that enable you to do then?
Take risks.
Take more, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Take risks.
And continue standing out in this space that's like legacy. I mean, kind of like a legacy industry in a sense.
I mean, dude, it's right at the top in terms of legacy industry. Healthcare, same way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say fintech is legacy anymore, because brilliant companies like Stripe and Plaid and fintech banks and Square and
Yeah, Robinhood.
they've all come in and they've really iterated. So I don't think that's legacy anymore. Telco is still this, and healthcare, and yeah. So
Yeah. Are you seeing, looking into the future, that telco space might adopt that same innovation that we saw with fintech? Is that going to pop up? Do they have the capability of doing it?
I mean, I think that's why we exist. I mean, I think we are the software layer who's focused on delivering exactly what this industry has missed. We're not building the towers and the infrastructure. We're laser focused on this, and so for now, I think we're the only ones doing it. Do I think others are going to see what we've been doing in our approach and copy it? Yes, I do. But I also think we're going to continue to progress and be ahead of where we were yesterday and where we are today. But I think Ahmed often talks about other industries that are, models, and some of those industries are, these things have already played out. And, fintech is an example. Like all the ones that he mentioned, they've been around for a long time. You ask them when they converted from startup to big company, I don't know if they would have an answer, but it was a while ago.
I would say there's a lot of wood to chop for competitors to get to where we are. Multi-network and these technologies that we built in. The existential challenge for all of these companies is that they already have so much legacy code, and they have to basically port over from that to these new services. They have to create so many translators that talk from a legacy system to a newer system. They have to make sure that it transitions from that to the newer one. And those transitions is what basically causes companies to, like, collapse.
Yeah.
So lots of risk. And the tech isn't that great in our space. So what you realize is, as the more kind of sophisticated you become, the more technical debt you have to deal with. So if you have not invested in these platforms from day one, you're just not going to get far. And then with us, like being a super carrier and letting people share, like that's obviously on another level. So, so no, I don't think there's anyone in the space that does nearly what we do. I think there's some innovative people that are going to come in. But then replicating US Mobile's technology means replicating the culture of innovation that we have built. And that's even harder. Why have been able to do this? We've just had very supportive investors. We actually had to buy our last investors out because at some point, I think they had fatigue on like, hey, why is this taking so long? And why, like, oh, well, Mint has so many customers. Well, they're single carrier. They don't have the tech that we do. It's a long game. And so then, like, we were able to find investors that were more supportive of this technological approach. But obviously, we delivered as well, right? Volition came in when we were less than 20 million revenue. Now we are over 115 in just 3 years.
Right.
So you need that as well. So like a lot of these things kind of have to align. Once you hire people, you have to give them time to just. So no, so like I feel confident that we are going to keep our lead for the next couple of years, but it's not lost on us that there are other people who can come in, which I think is going to be good for the industry. We want that to happen. So think about it. Even though we're kind of bragging about all the new tech we have and all that stuff, even we have legacy code.
Yeah, I was curious about that when you said it.
Yeah, many people don't know that like US Mobile's like revenue per employee is over $100 million, like over $1 million. We actually only have an engineering team of 30 people. So as we have grown fast and kept the company lean, which was an absolute requirement to kind of not get knocked out in the space and go bankrupt, there's definitely like technical debt that we have created as well, that we're actually bringing in senior leadership to help us untangle.
Yeah.
But I would say our definition of legacy code is totally different than how like an actual legacy company would look at. They would look at us and say, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we are looking at companies like Netflix and Spotify and Stripe on how they do things. And there's some things that they do better than us. There's things that we do better than them. I would say mostly from an engineering standpoint, Spotify is a step up from us. So we have those standards. Whereas my competitors are saying, wait, why would you even care about this when people don't really use their app in the telco space? And a T-Mobile or an AT&T or a Verizon customer might not see their app for 4 months, but it's very different with us. People are using their app a couple of times a month, if not more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so we have teams now that are specifically focused on it. Just because we have very high standards, our build times are anywhere between. Hey, Olash, what are our build times? Can you come in?
Sure. Here, you can talk into mine.
Okay. Passing me the tiny mic.
Yeah, here, real quick.
Yeah, come sit.
Opa.
You're only here for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
You can buckle this to your beard.
Well, let me try.
Just hold it.
No, I'm gonna buckle it to my beard.
No, just hold
Get
it.
the hair out.
Yeah. The nice beard.
Yes.
So Olash is our director of engineering.
Hello, everyone.
What were we talking about?
The build times, you asked me about.
Build time.
Yeah. What are our build times right now?
So on the web app, if you want to go to production, that's 12 minutes. Our marketing website is like 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
E-commerce is like around 6-7 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you want to build the mobile app, it's like around 12 to 24 hours, depending on how fast iOS approves it.
Okay. So like ridiculous. Do you guys see like how he has these numbers memorized?
Yeah.
This is not like he knows these numbers, right? Because it bothers him. 15-minute build times bothers this guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So now and like screw you, Jenkins. Like fuck you. Part of it is that. But
A huge shout out to our infrastructure team, especially Brian, because like our web app used to deploy in like 24 minutes, and whatever he did, he cached the dependencies. So unless we install new dependencies, it skips that step, cuts it in half.
So I'm talking to Joe yesterday. You know what he said? He said, I want to bring the build times to 5 seconds. No. I was like, and then he said, it's like, yeah, I'll do it. And we know he'll do it.
Yeah.
That's insane.
He told me that, and then I asked the engineers, what are you going to do now if you don't have those 15 minutes to go take a break in between? Is that a concern for you and your team?
That's a good question. I know, right? My idea was to like do push-ups until like the builds are over. This was my
what you've
2025
been
goal. No, I haven't. Can't you see? I'd be jacked by now.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ulash.
Thanks, Ulash.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you for the cameo.
Right now, the scripts are
That was so great.
Yeah, right? I love just bringing people in like that.
Yeah.
It's funny how sometimes you fix things and it's not like a 2% or a 10% fix. It's like a 50x fix, you know? Like 15 minutes down to 5 seconds. Like it's unfathomable how much of an improvement that is. And yet when you do the right type of solution on something like that, that's often what you get. Like our auto pay used to take hours and be like, what's the right time of overnight for this to run? Because it's so big, and every time we had more subscribers, it was taking longer and longer. And Quan Cheng went in and completely changed the way that it was running. And all of a sudden, all my alerts are flying off the shelf because I'm expecting auto pay orders to be created over hours, and it was done in like 4 minutes. And if he had given me like a 10% improvement, I would have been great. We can be 10% bigger and it'll take the same amount of time. And all of a sudden, again, it's like a 99% improvement.
Just notice some of the nuances in what Michael said right now. So for a CFO, he's talking about alerting systems. No CFO anywhere has alerting systems. Most likely, he wrote the code for it as well. Did you write the code for the read? Okay. So he wrote code for his own alerting systems with different services. And then look at his view on what it means to scale. He's saying that, oh my God, now if I add 10x more customers and we're at 5 million customers, here is how fast my auto pay is going to be. Like that, like deep, nuanced, technical knowledge on what it builds to scale companies. And I think this is not like endemic to him. It's a lot of people think like.
Yeah. I was listening to a New York Times article a couple weeks ago that was a guy talking about the recent report about how wine could cause cancer. Yeah. He was like, I'm not quitting wine because it's a cultural thing. I only drink one glass and it's memorable. And one of the things he said was, I saw this guy wearing a t-shirt that says, but does it scale? And wine is one of those industries that doesn't scale, generally speaking, because you grow, you harvest, and it's like a handmade craft. Are there some industries, products, or things that y'all appreciate that are not scalable, but you can still appreciate them in that way?
I don't. If I was in the wine industry, I'd try to figure out how to scale. Yeah, but and I understand, right? I mean, You have to let it age and all of that stuff. So I'd probably never be in the wine industry. Sorry.
Sorry
That's
to that
not my
guy.
next startup.
What about you, Michael? Is scalability always paramount, or can you appreciate the slow life?
Actually, okay. Cars for me. Okay. High-end cars are handmade, and there are like if you ordered a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, it's like the amount of customization you can do down to like this color of the thread, and like you can have contrasting threads on the seat and the steering, and just this like no like Lambo or Ferrari is built the same, and that's a process. It's a 2-year wait for that car. So I definitely, absolutely, like jokes aside, appreciate some industries are not going to be fast, and I don't never want them to be fast. And I bet if someone who drinks wine is listening to me, probably is like, that's exactly why I never want.
Wine to scale. What about you, Michael?
I actually really appreciate the idea that you often should do things that don't scale first because you learn so much from doing them. So, like we've been building our activation flow, rebuilding our activation flow for all the years that US Mobile has existed. Last year, actually at our offsite, Ahmed had introduced this idea of having this onboarding chat right in the activation flow. So at any point, if you're confused or running into any kind of question or issue, you can directly hit a person. Now, if you look at that next year or maybe later this year, maybe that's going to be very AI driven. But I think you really learn from putting humans in that position of supporting customers and figuring out what that experience is like, so you know what you actually have to build at scale. So I think you don't actually want, in many cases, you don't actually want just to build the scalable one before you know enough about what exactly is needed. As for a product, I don't know if I'm buying anything like that, but I guess art. That's the kind of thing where it's going to be more personal, more valuable if it becomes valuable one day because of the scarcity and because it's not scale.
Right. And you have AI tools that are generating art. Does that decrease the value of the art itself, or is it just a different category altogether?
I think it's a different category. You're gonna have art that's beautiful or valuable and complex, and it's going to be AI created. But the ones that are going to be worth something and whatever you value it are going to be the ones that were created with a person who is doing it better than somebody else using that AI. Even if they're using AI to create the AI prompts and all that stuff, whoever does it the best, which is probably going to take some level of intelligence and perseverance and all that, it's probably going to tell. You're probably going to be able to see the difference between that and maybe me walking in and saying, ChatGPT, give me a painting.
It's advanced so much, and it's advancing so much that it's really acting as a forcing function for you to start using it more. I've been working on our US Mobile's AI side, especially on the customer support side. Just in what we've been able to do with it in terms of training over the last 2 days, at this point we are pretty confident we're going to mitigate 70% of our interactions over the next year or so. And I'm not doing this to save cost at all, by the way. I'm doing it so that the 500 or so people that we have in the product support team have 70% more time to deal with people who actually have edge cases Rest of it, AI is going to do a very good job and actually do a much better job for the customers than people can, because obviously it can work faster and can talk to multiple people at the same time. But that means 500 or 1,000 less jobs in that space. So I think people have to kind of realize this. But here's what people are not thinking that can entirely level everything up, which is if you're in the product support realm, or you're in the customer support realm, or you're a bookkeeper that closes or open books, you can just learn how to use ChatGPT or Claude and basically leverage it and make it do what you want it to. And then it's an entirely different world. Then what does that look like? Does that look like that we'll have the ultimate work-life balance in our lives, where every person actually uses some kind of an AI tool to do their work? So like that's one way of looking at it, and that's actually a really good like kind of end. But my fear is most people are not going to do that. Like I don't think enough people at US Mobile are just like leveraging it the way they're supposed to. And so there has to be regulation around it. But I don't think, and by the way, the problem is we are past that. OpenAI is way too powerful at this point as an org for it to be brought under any regulation. Right? I mean, if a startup is worth $300-400 billion, it'll have the best lobbyists, and he'll have this and he'll have that. So like, we kind of past that at this point. But you're not going to be out of your job because of what you did yesterday or the day before that. It's actually going to be a content creator like you who's going to take other content creators out of their job, and I think that's the thing that we have to like really think about. Like, will we ever need to hire a translator ever again? The answer is probably no.
Right.
But can I go in and give my look and feel to one of these AI tools that we use for videos, and like get rid of you? The answer is absolutely not. Because the reason those videos look amazing and they're 10x is because of your creativity around it. So will we have more Anthonys? Or will we have more people that Anthony is going to take their jobs out of? And I think that's the challenge.
Wrapping up, Tokyo, you mentioned the other day about this is kind of like a recruiting opportunity for future people who will see this. Obviously, it's a huge opportunity for us to provide something valuable for our customers by just getting down to the grind. I just want to hear about that thought. How do you pick Tokyo? How do you pick a location for this? What goes into the preparation for this annual trip? So we're like the envy of all of my colleagues at other companies and industries. Like, do y'all know that like people are asking me to join US Mobile to come on the trip?
I believe it.
I think it's yeah. I mean, we see that as something that's people love, and it's not superficial. This is not, hey, we just raised $100 million and now let's go and spend some of it.
Yeah.
We were doing this when we hadn't raised any of this money as well. So it's definitely something that's organic to us, but also I think the offsite trips are like a part of US Mobile identity at this point.
The first time we did it, 4 days, 25 different presentations, and now we've consolidated that and introduced a hackathon, and we'll keep coming up with new things that make it better and more fun. And the value like that we get and everyone gets, it lasts. Like the impact of this trip is still going to be there months and months from now in how people even work together.
We really try to up it every year, but like in true US Mobile style, it doesn't like. So the Tokyo offsite is going to cost us similar to what our Dubai offsite cost us last year, even though we have more people and everyone has singles. So it's part of my closing speech where we're going to go next. And this is going to be hard. I don't know what I'm going to say today. Like I said Tokyo when we were in Dubai, said if we reach 100 million in revenue, we'll go to Tokyo. We reached there and we are in Tokyo, but this one is going to be very hard to like Tanzania, so that we can be on safaris. I don't know. It's just Japan is going to make it very hard. So I think everyone is kind of saying Australia or New Zealand next year.
Just the longest flights possible. Just keep increasing the flight time.
We'll probably increase the length of the So I've been kind of thinking about in my mind solution to how we're going to get to Australia, and I think I do have a solution right now for it, which is we're going to incorporate all of the winter break in it as well. So we'll be like, hey, we'll buy you flights on the 27th or the 28th of December. You guys go to Australia, and the offsite actually starts on the 7th of or 5th or 4th of Jan. So we'll give people a whole week to be kind of on their own, and then we'll start the offsite for a week. And I think that's going to work out really well.
I think our job applications are 10x, just 10x. People are just clicking on the usmobile.com/careers right now.
So,
after hearing that.
Yeah, so I think either it's going to be New Zealand or Australia next year, like Sydney, Auckland.
My entire understanding of telco is strictly how US Mobile does telco. My understanding also of working in a collaborative team is strictly how US Mobile does it. I can never go back. I could never work at a company that's corporate. I think they would kick me out. You know what I mean? I feel like joining US Mobile so early in my career, it's the US Mobile way is the only way. And I mean, I'm just hoping to years out when this chapter is closed and we've been acquired or IPO, whatever it is, and we look to new prospects, I hope that we can continue a lot of these working relationships.
I'll just cry looking at these videos.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 years later.
Missing it.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of crying, but
I mean, I hope that a lot of these folks will want to do something like this again,
Yeah.
Is that the hope for you?
it is, right? But it is dawning upon me that at some point lots of people will kind of go their own way. I think there's a day in our lives when Michael and I will go on our own way.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of sad, but yeah. I mean, we're in it for right now, so it doesn't make me that sad.
Yeah.
I think him and I are in it for another 10 years.
To talk about it right now.
Yeah, yeah, but it'll happen.
Well, thanks for taking time away from the hackathon on the final day to sit with me. I know you guys got to get back to finishing up your projects. Everyone who's watching too, send in your questions. Comment below what you want to see next time. If there's a certain department that you want to hear from, we'll bring them in too.
This is probably one of our best ones.